this meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. We start with roll call.
Chair Magana,
I'm present.
Vice Chair Ramos, Commissioner Banks,
Here.
Commissioner Westphal,
Here.
Commissioner Reyes, Commissioner Gardner, Commissioner Mendoza, Commissioner Jolly, Commissioner Wendy,
I'm here.
Commissioner Brown,
Present.
Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Seller,
Here.
and we do not meet quorum.
How many do we need, Kathy?
One
We
more.
need 8.
8 more at 7, so I believe some of those should be coming soon. So because of that, we will skip item 2, which is our consent calendar, and come back to that shortly. We'll go on to our next item, which is public record. Do we have any correspondence?
We did not receive any correspondence.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to open forum. Do we have anyone here for open forum? We will keep it moving again. We will come back to our consent calendar once we achieve quorum, but we will start with item A, an information item on our youth commission announcements. The floor. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Dietra Huang, and I am here this evening to provide a report on the San Jose Youth Commission. First, on January 20th, District 3 held our annual Youth Policy Summit. This event was open to the general public and taught youth the process of policy writing. We broke out into several groups to research subsections of the policy, and our final result was a memorandum about establishing a BIPOC visual artist grant program under the City of San Jose's Office of Racial Equity. The day after, the Youth Commission hosted our Youth Budget Priorities Summit. We had a really great turnout with around 50 youth in attendance, broke out into a bunch of different groups based on topics such as violence and safety, vandalism, and educational resources. And we also enjoyed some Chipotle throughout the event. After group presentations, youth were given fake paper money to distribute to the issues they found the most important. The identified priorities in order of most investment were housing and homelessness, sexual violence and harassment, and transportation and mental health tied for third. Zooming into the work of one of our ad hocs, the Sexual Violence Committee, we recently passed a memorandum that focuses on implementing helpline placards in public bathrooms to combat human trafficking. The memorandum is currently under review by Councilmember Bien Duan's office. Recently, the Youth Commission has hosted several events. On Saturday, March 16th, the Environmental Ad Hoc Committee, led by our citywide commissioner, hosted an oak tree planting event at Mary Jane Hyman Park. The event aimed to reintroduce California native oaks to local parks with the help of the PR&S department, the volunteer management unit, and the mayor's office. We are grateful to the mayor for making time to attend this event, and we had a wonderful turnout with several volunteers. Later that day, our District 4 Commissioner and the D4 Safety and Transportation team hosted the Youth Can Prevent Overdose at Berryessa Branch Library. The event centered around educating youth about drug usage, Narcan administration, and how to respond in the event of an overdose. Joined by 20 attendees, Foothill EMT students and teachers, and the Santa Clara County Opioid Overdose Prevention Project, the D4 YAC team handed out free Narcan, a life-saving medication, and presented the dangers of drug usage and how to combat peer pressure. On Sunday, March 17th, our District 7 Commissioner and D7 YAC hosted the Creative Futures Fair at Yerba Buena High School, serving as a celebration of the pioneering spirit among our youth. It provided a free and inclusive space for young vendors to showcase their talents and creativity. They had over 40 diverse businesses, more than 20 live musical performances, roughly 50 student volunteers, and an attendance rate that was well over the hundreds. Additionally, they collaborated with the key clubs of Silver Creek High School and Yerba Buena High School to engage volunteers, and Councilmember Bien Duan provided a city commendation to the D7 YAC during the event. The Commission's next steps include developing a budget recommendation around youth priorities, continuing our study sort events, having our collaborative event with the San Francisco Youth Commission, contributing to the Youth Leadership Summit with Santa Clara County Youth Task Force, and presenting our annual Youth Commission report to NSC. Thank you. I am available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Before we get into comments or questions, we have any public comments on this item? All right, we'll open up the floor to commissioners. Questions, comments?
You make me wish I was a youth.
Thank you.
I'm just really impressed with all that you have going in between our meetings. It was really lovely to hear your report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, really impressed. And just an advocacy point, if there's any way we can include libraries in the budget message from our youth, we would love that.
We will keep that in mind.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give it up
Thank you,
for our
Sharon.
wonderful chair. We'll move on to, again, folks, this is an informational item, so we don't require any action. We'll move on to item B, another information item, which is our volunteer service updates. Perfect.
Robert Miranda.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Perfect. So, like Jill already spilled the beans, I'm Robert Miranda, everyone. Hi. I am the volunteer services analyst, which means I manage volunteer services. You may have met my predecessor, Jason Pell. He was pivotal in helping me kind of step into this role. So I really want to just look at bases. He looks so familiar. I just really have to comment on this, and I don't know why, but I'm sidetracked. I'm so sorry.
Well, if you were
so-
ever at a table like that, I probably came up with that.
That's probably why. That could be. I'm not sure. But I've had the privilege of acting in this role since July and officially came on board in late November. I've had 20 plus years working in libraries. 13 of those years have been working directly managing volunteers and interns. I came to San Jose Public Library in 2016 as the volunteer coordinator, and during that time, I led the development of different volunteer projects such as Volunteer Weigh Your Fines, system-wide service days, virtual programming, virtual volunteer opportunities, I'm sorry. I implemented recognition events, prepared several trainings for volunteers and staff, and supported recruitment and retention strategies for library volunteers. In 2022, I was promoted to a library assistant within our access services team here at Dr. King Library, where I supervise clerical staff and work directly with our community. It really does help me get a grasp of who it is that we serve. Let's see, and what it all means to me. So for me, this building is more than just four walls that houses books and computers. It's kind of this really neat opportunity to get someone who's a CEO and someone who is struggling with homelessness on the same building, you know, in line to check out the same book. I love this building. I love the idea of libraries. I work with volunteers because of a very kind woman who at some point saw that my parents didn't teach me English and wanted to work with me. So that's why I think volunteering and libraries just resonate. It's a big part of who I am, and I'm thrilled to be back in volunteer services and can't wait to build upon the foundation that Jason and I built and moving towards to kind of build up the numbers post-pandemic. So here's a side-by-side comparison of our volunteer numbers, really. So you can see fiscal year 2021, fiscal year through 2022. So right next to that is fiscal year 2022 by 2023. The numbers have moved up. That is the direction that we want to go in. A big part of the reason why this is happening is because of the post-pandemic rebuild that we are working on. And we visualize this growth moving pretty steadily in the coming months, in the coming years, really. So here we have our total. Currently, we're at about 1,400 volunteers, and they have donated a little over 35,000 volunteer hours. That is a 16% increase from the previous year, and they've contributed a 27% increase from that of last year as well. The library's programs are divided into three sections there. We have programmatic Friends, and Library Services. So programmatic really are volunteers that come in to share their skills. So if someone's hosting a program, if someone wants to deliver a cooking workshop, a Friends of the Library program, that's all within programmatic. Friends are library groups that provide valuable resources and fundraising efforts. And library service volunteers assist with operational tasks, organizing, shelving, that's what they do. Every year, our programmatic volunteer hours typically are the highest, and that's because the majority of our volunteer programs are volunteer-led. So that number is high because that means that we're offering more things to our community. This right here kind of breaks down what we have in numbers in relation to in-person volunteering versus virtual. So in the past, this number for, let me flip my page here because I have all my notes. All the virtual hours have been higher, is on a very steady decline, and that's a good thing. That means that people are feeling more at ease to come into our library building for our programs. That's what we want. The 22,000 that we have right there will continue to increase steadily at the same time as the bottom number there is just kind of going down. Let's see. Right now, when we look at the whole bulk of our volunteer hours, 80% of our volunteers are all in person, 20% are virtual. And this breaks down the age groups of our volunteers. So teenagers account for about 64%, more than half of our volunteer base. Next to that, we have 382 volunteers for our adults that are age 55 plus. And at the bottom there, we have our adults age 18 through 54, which are about 7% for that. So this slide really highlights the willingness of volunteers of how they want to do more for the communities by facilitating different literacy related programs, whether it be language or digital. So we'll highlight 3 different programs. The first one here is ELL Conversation Clubs, where you have someone working one-on-one with a volunteer or in a group to kind of develop those skills, to practice their English ability. Next, we have Reading to Children, and that's illustrated right here on the right, where you will have one student, one adult, working in 2 different ways. Either the child could read to the volunteer, or the volunteer can read to the child. It's kind of up to the child to decide what path they want to take that day. And the last one we have is our Tech Mentor program, which really does help with computer literacy. We have so many people here in Silicon Valley that still struggle with the basics of computers. So volunteers coming in to kind of navigate that and help them feel a little more at ease with something as simple as an iPhone or a computer. With these programs, you can see the direct numbers of people that have been affected. So over 2,000 people have been able to practice their English at these programs, at the ELL Conversation Club. All 3 of these programs, before I go on with the numbers, are offered virtually for all of our community and in person at about 50% at all of our locations. Close to 1,500 children have had important literacy experiences through Reading to Children, and a little over 1,200 people have received computer help through the one-on-one Tech Mentor help. You can't read what it says right there, but I'm just going to tell you that's a day of service. This is our MLK Day of Service. This is kind of a very big deal. We wanted to honor Dr. King. This is his namesake within this building. So on January 20th, we had 117 people participate in this day of service. The reason why this program is so near to me is that I kind of helped to put this program together. And this is the first in-service that we've had since 2019, since May of 2019. Shortly after that, the pandemic hit. And because of that, we had to quickly pivot to trying to do this program virtually. So in February of 2020, we did just that. So that means that within that time, between 4 to 5 years, we've been able to kind of bring the program back. Reasons why this program is so important to me, not just that I helped to kind of create this program, but I get to work one-on-one with people from the community. I hear their stories. I get to see an opportunity, a perfect opportunity for families to come in and volunteer and adults to kind of showcase what volunteering means and why they should perform this civic responsibility. And lastly, it removes the stigma regarding volunteer or regarding any library fines. You come in, you do something great, you give back to your community, you volunteer. My very first one of these events, was back in 2016. So this volunteer where you're fine program is set up so that you come in, you volunteer for 1 hour, and $20 worth of library fines are just removed. It's so magical to me to just see these numbers just disappear. But at the very first event, we're checking all these people in, and everyone kind of gathered while we're signing everyone in, and it became this kind of, it sounds very silly, but this kind of jail yard like gossip where they're asking, why are you in here for? What led you to this? And you hear all these silly stories of, I took a trip to India and I left my book on a plane. Oh, I left my book on the train and I'm never gonna get it back. Oh, I can beat yours. I left mine at the ex-girlfriend's and I never want to go back. So you hear all these reasons, whatever they are, this is that one moment where they all kind of come together and they do something fantastic for their community. They feel good, and fines just kind of magically disappear. The next thing here, and again, in this program, it was done typically when there was a need. So at the beginning of the school year, at the end of the school year, there was a high need for it. So we did this program to help with them. But since fines on youth materials have gone away, the need for this program has kind of tapered back a bit. So now we're offering it once a year annually at the beginning of the year to kind of help with New Year, New You as part of MLK. We're going to be doing this every January. Towards the bottom right here, we have the adults age 55 plus. So we are working with the community as well. We have so many people that work with San Jose, and then when they leave, we don't want them to truly go away. We want them to use all of that effort that they put forth, making San Jose the best that it could be, but do that instead of as an employee, as a volunteer. You know San Jose, you know the city, come on board, become a volunteer. I would love it if they just volunteered with me at the library, but I will share.
Are you hitting it?
Yeah. That's where I seen you. Where have I seen her? There you are.
That's good. Very good.
Well, I got a photo of you just
Oh,
away.
Lord.
So here we go. This is actually Service Day. This was Service Day after a long hiatus, and you can't see it, but underneath that mask, she is grinning from ear to ear.
I was.
And almost as red as she is right now. So partners I'm not going to highlight all of these opportunities, but these are some of our most popular volunteer opportunities. The first one I do want to talk a little bit about is Partners in Reading. The reason why it's so important, we have so many programs focused on youth. This is for adults. You get to sit with an adult. You get to make a connection. I have a little quote towards the end of my little presentation here, but you get to truly build a bond with someone that you would walk right past on the sidewalk and not realize that there's a connection there. So it's kind of bringing us all together, building a family member with someone who would typically be a stranger, while developing their literacy. Next, I will move over to Teens Reach. Since teens are the highest group, we really have to devote so much of our time to helping these teens have a meaningful volunteer opportunity. Let's build them up. Let's bring them in. Let's give them a place where they can give back to their communities as part of a youth advisory committee. And the very bottom here, program assistant, facilitator, supervisor. This ends up being every single person who comes to us with a skill. So you can have a skill, whatever it could be. One of my favorite stories was someone who was seen at a story time with, they were doing sign language, and someone picked up on that and said, can you teach others? That's what that is. So if you play a mean ukulele and you want to come into the library and teach others how to do so, I'm that person. Come to me and let's get you to teach other people. And now I'm going to call Jean Harrigan to come up. Talk a little bit about Friend.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do
gonna-
this for you?
Well, I can.
You're welcome.
Sure. So, like Robert mentioned, I'm Jean Harrigan, and I've been working quite a bit with the Friends of the Library. You heard from me last year if you were here. So the Friends of the Library, there we go. They're a special group of volunteers and special groups, I should say. They're independent, volunteer-led partner organizations that focus on fundraising and advocacy for the library. This is a photo of 3 of the friends of the Berryessa Library, and they're getting ready for their book sale to start. Most of our branches, currently 20 of our branches have friends groups. And these groups raise funds for their home branch, and they also contribute to system-wide programming and collections. During fiscal year 22-23, the Friends of the Library contributed more than $80,000 toward programming across the library system. Some of the groups work not just with their home branch, but also supporting other branches. And for example, the Berryessa Friends have been working quite a bit with the Alviso branch because Alviso's friends all moved away during the pandemic. So they've been helping out there. And I just also wanted to add, when the library is distributing funds for programming and other activities like that, our teams do take into account the friend support. And so branches that don't have friends group supporting as much, they would get more system funds to make sure that there's some equity with the program. So friends support all types of programs. I've listed a few here. You can see this is a photo from the Tully Library's Lunar New Year event this year. And the cultural programming is super popular kind of across the board, and same with animal programming. So I've listed a couple. Also, kind of some interesting things I felt I want to highlight. The East San Jose Carnegie branch recently had a parenting program that was sponsored by their friends group. Their friends group is one person right now, but they raise money just like the others. And then I also want to highlight the West Valley branch. They have done a really strong partnership with the Insiders program. The Insiders program is, we offer those across the library system. Those are programs specifically for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And the Friends of the Library have really sponsored a whole bunch of different programming opportunities and craft supplies and things specifically for the Insiders program to make sure they have a really robust offering for those groups. And then the manager of the Educational Park branch sent me some great photos, which I didn't include here, from their North Pole at the library program. And she mentioned that the feedback she got from the families was that they never would have had these opportunities to get their photos with Santa and get the kind of like the goodies that the friends were giving out. So it was a really good opportunity just for the families in the neighborhood to be able to engage with our cultural offerings too. Then this is it's so small up at the top, but you can sort of see it says All Friends. So we also have a group that's called the All Friends, and that's a sort of a collaborative effort of all of the friends groups across the system working together to share best practices, share ideas, and to build collaborations between the branches. Currently, they're meeting about quarterly, and this larger group also has continued to work with the San Jose Public Library Foundation to be better informed and to be better advocates for the library system. And the All Friends are continuing to build those collaborations and also partner with each other to support those branches that don't have as active friends groups at the moment. I think that's it for me.
Thank you.
But I'll be right here if you have questions.
Volunteer feedback survey. So every spring we conduct a survey through SurveyMonkey. We send it out to all of our active volunteers. Anyone who's accepted helps us kind of build a far better volunteer program. We send out this survey with, I'm going to start at the bottom, 3 demographic questions, 3 free answer questions, but the bulk of it really is 5 volunteer experience questions and 8 questions regarding their satisfaction as a volunteer with SJPL. When we did send this out fiscal year, actually in the next slide, we'll actually show you a little bit more, but for the previous fiscal year, 68 people responded to the survey. From that survey from 2021, 2022, 95% would recommend San Jose Public Library as a place to volunteer. 93% feel comfortable approaching a staff member when they have a question. And 94% felt prepared for their volunteer role. These are really high numbers. It makes us very proud because it shows that all the work that we're doing to train and make them feel as if they are part of our family, it does pay off. Here's the quote I was talking a little earlier about about Partners of Reading. It is quite lengthy. Please don't read the whole thing. The part that I really like to highlight is I have been immeasurably rewarded in learning more about the vastly different cultures between my learner and myself. That is why Partners of Reading and all of our volunteer opportunities are truly special. You do get to interact with a stranger. You get to learn about someone's culture, about who they are, and it makes the library a hub. Our volunteer opportunities can be that catalyst for someone to make a friend. The next steps. I know I lied and I said that I had a photo of you. I don't, but I'm going to pretend that these are your hands hard at work. Okay. So there he is. Okay. So the next steps for our unit, we're going to continue to support Teens Reach coordinators as they engage community teams and volunteer opportunities, with teens being the number one group of volunteer numbers within our library system. We really devote an effort to kind of build that.
Attention, the library will close to the public in 30 minutes. After 8 p.m., the library remains available to SJSU Spartans with current jar cards until 12 a.m. Once again, we will close to the public in 30 minutes.
To really encourage those numbers to go up to pre-pandemic, we really work on providing training opportunities for new staff to build up that number. Prior to the pandemic, our number was closer to 3,000. So it really is us just working to get that back up. Next is working to further engage our community members ages 55 plus. And last, continue to build our volunteer program. I am very excited, very excited to be part of volunteer services, and really can't wait to kind of bring us back to where we were pre-pandemic. That is the number one thing on my dry erase board every morning when I come in. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Before we get into questions or comments, any public comment on this presentation? All right, I'll open up the floor for commissioners, comments, questions. Yes, please.
That's a lot of volunteers.
It is.
I mean, where does the SJPL rank like relative to other city departments in terms of volunteers? How do you use these numbers?
That's a great question. I'd have to verify it. The thing is, every single department has their own volunteer management software.
Yeah.
So there's no easy way for me to just check that. I am training a couple of employees from Parks and Rec that are starting to use Better Impact, which is our volunteer management software. So that would allow us to very easily know where we rank. I like to think we're at the top, but you can't quote me on that. But it's a great question. I do want to know. I should check.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'm curious too about the retention year to year, because that's a lot of people to onboard, and then how do you keep them, because it would take a lot of staff time to.
We keep them happy.
Yeah. Do you have retention rates? Like, where is that?
So actually, right now, I just had a meeting about that with City Hall because they wanted to know, how long have you had volunteers? And we have some people that have come on board in 2012 and they're still with us.
Yeah.
So it runs from people that stay with us for 2 months to, years and years and years. The retention rate tends to be higher with adults of a certain demographic. They have the means to kind of stay with the library because they're retired. Teens tend to come with us, and then there's an age that they hit where they're too cool for us and they kind of disappear. And sometimes they come back. They may not. And if they do, they come back as adults and volunteer because they remember that. But you kind of recruitment or retention. It's a little bit of both, but if I am constantly recruiting, I would be exhausted. So it's really just keeping the people that we currently have happy so that they want to continue to do this. And a big part of that really is because they see what we offer and they have light bulb moments every once in a while and they think, what else we could do to make this better? And that's how we grow. It is from those people that do stay with us. Thank you.
Other questions?
You mentioned 3,000 people before the pandemic volunteered. How many hours were they contributing? Or how much was the total hours? Because you 35,000 currently. How many hours?
Let me go back.
Pandemic.
Right now we're at 35,000. And again, this is fiscal year 2022, 2023. I don't have the data on me for what we were pre-pandemic.
Oh, okay.
Since I left the unit and came back. I know I'm looking at that target number of 3,000 because my own personal goal is to get us there. I want us there because I see the need for more volunteers to help out with various programs. We have all these ideas and know that volunteers can help us put those programs forward. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
I can add you that number if you're interested, just so you know.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to volunteer.
Oh,
Excellent.
wait, no. I thought you-
Well, it seems like you've already said it. It's recorded. Sorry.
Careful.
Other questions?
They were phrased that.
No, I'm kidding. Please don't do that.
Am I right in assuming that the hours likely are higher in case we didn't document all folks or didn't catch all volunteers?
Yes. Typically with volunteers, the hours are always higher than what's reported. People will quickly leave, they have to pick up their kids, or they have to go do X, Y, Z, and they don't get those hours logged the way they should. It's rare when someone overestimates, I'm gonna be at the library for an hour and a half. No, they stay longer. And that's really because of the connections. I like being at the children's room, so it's okay. They need extra help because there's a program that started, I'll stay. I'll help you clean up, I'll help you set up. The underreporting is natural. We are always on top of it, but there is always that little number we can't really tell.
And you touched on this, you can play mean ukulele or, no,
Sure,
it's
yeah.
good. I can't. No, I can't.
Okay.
saying, wow.
No.
Anything.
Those are ways that you can volunteer, but let's say is it dependent on the program that one is doing?
We can
Like
build
the
it.
requirements to become a volunteer. I'm thinking, say I'm a high school student at Lincoln High School, and I have volunteer hours I need to complete.
Yeah.
How do I go about that?
So typically, every single volunteer gets interviewed. So what do you want to do with us? These are the opportunities we have available, but it's not a concrete menu. You can build something. So if you did have that mean ukulele playing ability, you're like, I can offer this. I actually have 5 ukuleles just collecting dust in the garage. I can host a little class. Or we can get our friends to get these extra ukuleles and we can have people sign up for that program and grow it if we find that there is a need for this. That's how we create these. It's someone coming to us with a skill and saying, I want to impart this skill on my community.
Any other comments or questions?
Comment one thing, Robert being sort of new to the role, but returning thankfully to the unit. Several years ago, prior to the pandemic, the city did do an audit of all volunteer services citywide. And one of the things they found was that the library's practices and procedures, like using a certain software, the way the program was managed, the idea of what Robert was just describing, we call engaged volunteerism. So it isn't just that we have certain volunteer jobs and you have to pick which one you're going to do. They actually work with you to really, activate the community's talents in the benefit for the students or for the public. And all of that was kind of held up as an example of a good program. And so we had very few things we had to change at that time. But as Robert said, the pandemic really did make striking changes to volunteerism, as you can imagine. And as Robert said, we're working to build that back up. So maybe next time when we report, we can show some kind of before and after again, especially for some of our newer commissioners. So we can see that progress over time.
Robert, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, so this is a reminder that it is an informational item, so we'll move on to the next item, which is our library collections and technical services. Another information item.
We have our manager of technical services, Sharon Fung, who some of you will remember. And she has a special guest who I will let her.
With me today is Gina Clampett. She is our e-resources librarian. I brought show and tell today.
Nice.
Never gotten to use my own clicker before. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Commissioner. All right. This evening, I'm going to share with you some information about the acquisitions budget. I'll review the circulation of materials over the last year, highlight accessible formats for youth, update you on the growth of diversity, equity, and inclusion topics in our collections, and delve a little into e-resources. First, let's take a look at what customers are saying about the collections at San Jose Public Library. It's possible you've already seen the results of the customer satisfaction survey from this fall. There were over 700 respondents, and they had a great deal to say about the library's collections. 89% of responses showed that the variety of the library's collections were good or very good, and an overwhelming 84% of the people that responded to the survey indicated that they use the library to borrow items. And 77% of those people indicated that we provide that service well. E-resources also see high usage at 33%, and correlating that with the spring survey, where 7.8% of respondents indicated that they had not visited a library branch in the last year, we know that more and more people are using our electronic resources to meet their information needs. And while the numbers show that the great majority of customers think we are doing well with the collections we offer, we do use continuous quality improvement and analysis in response to customer feedback and the data about how they interact with library collections. The information from the survey will help inform how we allocate the acquisitions budget. There are a couple of ways we compare our collection spending with other libraries. One way is looking at expenditures per capita. Here you can see that our per capita spending is $46.98. We are about in the middle of the libraries we are often compared to, and slightly more than the $41.24 representing the median of all reporting California libraries. Another way to compare our spending, which is not shown here, is looking at the percentage of spending on acquisitions as a part of the overall spending for the library. The acquisitions budget in San Jose has remained about flat over the last several years, while our nearby libraries have seen more incremental growth. Acquisitions makes up only 8.35% of the total library budget this fiscal year in San Jose, leaving us behind our peers. Expenditures were 12% in San Francisco, 16% at Santa Clara County, and 12% in Sacramento in 21-22. Having the same budget year over year means we can buy less. Costs go up for processing and taxes and the materials themselves. In the last 5 years, for example, the average cost of ebooks and e-audiobooks has gone up over $5 per item. And so, with that in mind, the total acquisitions budget allocated is $5,512,000. The parcel tax provides 9% of this budget. The construction and conveyance tax provides the bulk at 91%. The acquisitions budget pays for physical materials, ebooks and e-audiobooks, electronic resources, processing costs, and sales use taxes. Here you can see the different age levels and categories of this fiscal year's acquisitions budget allocations. For physical items, children's materials are 16%, adult materials 15%, and world languages 5%. Ebooks and e-audio combined with e-resources in all languages make up 47% of the total allocations, leaving 14% for taxes and processing, and then overall 40% for physical materials. How we allocated these funds is largely based on how our materials are used. And that is represented by a number of data points, including circulation, turnover rate, and cost per item. City and library priorities are also considered along with community needs. This pie chart shows the circulation of our physical materials and our ebooks and e-audiobooks in fiscal year 22-23. Physical materials make up 80% of our total circulation. Impressively, 53% is circulation of physical children's materials, about 4% is young adult, about 17% for adults, and 6% is circulation of world languages. Ebooks and e-audiobook circulation closely models the traditional print circulation and makes up 20% of the total. A little later, Gina will talk about the usage of e-resources and how that is measured differently and difficult to compare.
Attention, the library will close to the public in 15 minutes. After 8 p.m., the library remains available to SHU Spartans with current tower cards until 12 a.m. Once again, we will close the library to the public in 15 minutes.
In addition to circulation, we make decisions about how to allocate acquisitions funds by looking at several factors. The before mentioned turnover rate, cost per item, as well as input from several sources results in the acquisitions budget document that you see just a small portion of here. In addition to the numbers-driven data, bold steps were taken in an effort to manage a reduced budget for physical materials prompted by shifts in the publishing landscape and rising costs of e-materials. Current formulas prioritize circulation and cost per item, but we know that record count also affects the allocations, meaning the more items we have, the more there are to circulate. This year, the allocation to physical audiobooks was reduced, partly because they are no longer being printed, and some are only released digitally. And the funds shifted to support the sustained increases to the use of e-audio materials. However, our read-alongs have been increasingly popular as we have continued to invest in these items. These are children's books that have a built-in audio player in the physical book, like that. And Gina's holding some examples that we can pass around if you want to see them. All right. Don't press play though, because it will play. I mean, you can if you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Those do come in picture books, they come in easy readers, chapter books, and bilingually. So we have them in Spanish and English and Chinese and English. I'm not sure if they have too many other languages, but Chinese and Spanish for sure. Okay. And though the allocation for physical world language materials was reduced, mostly due to the unavailability of media items like DVDs and music CDs, there was a significant increase to the allocation for world language e-materials of over 10%. This year also included a 15% increase to the category of special populations to build collections in accessible formats for youth. The Collection Development Advisory Team added Braille collections for young children based on several customer requests over time, with a goal of building collections in accessible formats for our youngest customers. 5 locations have about 100 items each. These locations were chosen based on customer interest, proximity to relevant community institutions, and to achieve regional coverage. The collections are intended to be a bridge for customers who have not yet gotten connected with the California State Library's Braille and Talking Book Library, or who want to be able to access additional resources in person. All of these Braille materials are for children and range in age from board books to middle grades. The Alum Rock Friends of the Library provided gift funds of about $1,000 to have additional Braille items at Alum Rock. The material being added includes Braille only for the chapter books and middle grade books. Those are for independent readers of Braille. Some print and Braille books for some of the easy readers and picture books for those that are learning to read in Braille, and some standard board books and picture books that have Braille added. So these books include pictures, print, and Braille, and that's an option that can be enjoyed by a range of readers with a range of abilities. These twin vision texts also provide an opportunity for learning and family engagement. As of mid-February, the 413 items in the Braille collection have circulated over 860 times with a turnover rate of 2.1 since they were introduced in August of 2023. We have an example of this too if you want to see the Braille. Another accessible format we are adding this year are large print books for children and young adults. $6,000 was allocated from the acquisitions budget to purchase youth large print materials. This was achieved by reducing expenditures in other categories of the budget. And with that $6,000 budget, about 240 books can be purchased, so about 10 books per branch. Books will be purchased for both the children's fiction and young adult fiction collections, but will, at least initially, primarily focus on children's. According to the publisher of this material, research shows that large print text has the most impact on students who are just transitioning from early chapter books to middle grade chapter books, where the font size usually gets smaller. So most of the books they print are aimed at this age group. Because this collection is intended to help all readers and not necessarily just those specifically looking for large print material, like in our adult collection, we felt it was important that the items be interfiled with the regular children's and young adult fiction collections. As a result, they will have a regular fiction call number, but get a large print sticker applied on the spine in the same place that we put genre stickers. So just above the spine label. In addition to diversifying our collections with accessible formats, we have access to a great tool that helps us assess the diversity of our collections through a product called Collection HQ, shown here in part. Our librarians use this tool generally to generate lists of items that we may want to remove from the collection due to age or lack of use, or even high use, for example, items that might be grubby or worn out. It also has a feature that tracks the percentage of our collection that has subject headings associated with diverse topics. There are no universal metrics for what percentage of a library's collection should be diverse, so there's no benchmark for us to compare ourselves to. We have discovered, however, in conversation with other libraries in the Bay Area that use Collection HQ, most libraries hover between 15 and 20%. For us, this tracking tool has been a valuable way to ensure that our collection is always moving in the right direction, as you can see from the graph at the bottom. The diversity of our collection is also influenced by the publishing industry, but as a library, we can use our buying power to influence future publishing decisions when we work to make sure that our communities are represented in our collections. Cataloging continues to be involved in DEI work and using inclusive subject headings, adding new updated subject headings and changing problematic ones to replace outdated terminology. This is important because subject headings are used to find materials of interest in our catalog. Outdated terminology can limit what our customers find when searching if they aren't using those old terms, and they can make people feel excluded. Here on the right side of the slide, you can see, the left side of the slide. You can see what subject headings look like in the catalog. These are for the title We Are Grateful by Tracy Sorrell. Each of these subject headings are hyperlinked to other materials in the same subject heading. The last subject heading listed there is Indigenous populations. It's one of 3 new inclusive terms incorporated into the catalog this year. A total of 6,766 catalog records have been updated over the last 2.5 years, increasing access to these items.
The library has also greatly increased access to e-resources in the last 4 years. So what do we mean when we talk about e-resources? They're not just anything digital or tech related. They are a collection of subscription databases that provide customers access to information in a variety of formats. This includes ebooks such as Libby from Overdrive, as well as learning platforms and databases. Similar to the general acquisitions budget, spending on e-resources is evaluated on a variety of factors, which can vary from vendor to vendor. The metrics we track include circulation, which is the number of times an item is checked out, number of sessions, the number of times users log in, the number of items accessed, such as articles or interactive courses, and number of unique users.
Attention, the library will close to the public in 5 minutes. After 8 p.m., the library remains available to SHU Spartans with current tarot cards until 12 a.m. Once again, we will close the library in 5 minutes.
In the chart, you can see data from the past 2 fiscal years, as well as the first half of the current fiscal year. We are well on our way to surpassing use in previous years. To continue this progress and reach more members of the community through digital formats, we've been able to use pandemic-related digital equity funds to acquire e-resources that offer world language content. An example of this is Float for Kids, and as part of our efforts to ensure diversity in our collection, we added this platform in December of 2021. LOTE stands for Languages Other Than English, and this resource provides bilingual animated picture books and activities in over 60 languages. LOTE offers our customers access to picture book content in community languages, including those not currently selected in print. There are 3,294 titles in 67 languages, with new titles added monthly. The most popular languages accessed by San Jose Public Library patrons are Vietnamese at 18%, English at 15%, Spanish 13%, and Mandarin 7%. And I will acknowledge that the text of the slide is incorrect for Spanish. LOTE reports some dialects separately, and I initially overlooked Mexican Spanish, so that's a little bit higher than shown on the slide. Last fiscal year, 722 titles were accessed in 391 sessions, so that's a bit more than 1 per day of the fiscal year. And the most popular activity was a typing game called Fish Typing Frenzy, which I believe Sharon tested out.
It's really fun.
As I said, LOTE allows access to community languages not readily available to us in print, such as Amharic, for speakers of those languages. This service provides an opportunity for shared experiences for families with language barriers between generations, and can also provide support for monolingual parents of children in bilingual schools. LOTE offers exposure to languages and cultures with little or no representation in San Jose, and many of the stories are folk or fairy tales from around the world. Pressreader is an e-resource which has a large collection of newspapers and magazines in world languages, and it also has hugely popular English titles, including The Economist and USA Today. It was acquired in July 2021 and features 7,682 titles in 61 languages, with English, French, Chinese, and Spanish making up the most popular languages last fiscal year, for a total of 38,380 issues read in 18,671 sessions. The most popular titles were The Hindu from India and The Straits Times from Singapore, both of which are English language publications. Pressreader creates content to culture or language for immigrants and expats in our community. It's a source of global perspectives in the coverage of current events. It offers access to authentic, up-to-date cultural material with translation support for language learners. The library's most popular e-resource is Overdrive and their Libby app. And yes, there are world language items here too. This is the library's largest and most versatile ebook collection. There are about 10,000 titles in Chinese, Spanish, Russian, Vietnamese, and Korean combined, with 1,200 magazine titles in 23 languages other than English. There are also read-alongs, high-low titles, definitions, and translation support for new readers and language learners. Additional accessibility features include the option to adjust text size, font, and color, as well as compatibility with screen readers. English language items make up the great majority of the available items, but there are also, as I said, Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, and Russian collections. San Jose Public Library acquired Overdrive in January of 2004 and provides access to ebooks, e-audiobooks, and e-magazines. There are over 104,000 titles in 42 languages. This chart shows the English language items make up 99% of the circulation, and the remaining 1% of circulation is divided among more than 10 other languages. The most popular of those over the last fiscal year were Spanish, Chinese, and Russian. There were over 1.4 million circulations from almost 300,000 users.
Attention, the library is now closed to the public. Extended study hours are now in effect. SJSU Spartans with current tarot cards may remain until 12 a.m. All others must exit the building now. Once again, we are now closed to the public. Extended study hours are now in effect.
In 2003, the library acquired Newsbank, which provides access to two databases, America's News and the San Jose Mercury News Collection. The former contains full-text articles from 45 magazines, including The Atlantic, Kirkus Reviews, and Smithsonian. The Mercury News Collection initially included full-text articles from 1985 onward. In April of 2023, in coordination with the Library Foundation and through a generous donation of over $1 million, the library has been able to acquire the digital rights to the San Jose Mercury News, including the digital archive, which contains digitized images of full pages from 1900 to 1985. This format allows users to both see the content in its original format and use standard database search tools. The years 1900 to 1984 of the Mercury News were previously only accessible to the public on microfilm collections available here at the King Library and at a handful of other libraries across the nation. These years represent the largest period of social, political, and economic activity in the history of the Santa Clara Valley. The digital archive provides local primary source content and supports local history and genealogical research. In the previous fiscal year, 14,000 Mercury News articles have been accessed in 4,300 sessions. 86% of the total articles read were from the archive. We will soon acquire the digital rights to the San Jose Mercury Evening News. This exciting addition completes our patrons' access to San Jose News from 1884 in an easy-to-access digital format.
So what's next? Upcoming, we are going to continue our focus on shifting patterns in how our customers are using our collections and changes in how publishers provide content. We will do this by implementing improvements to our acquisitions budget allocation document and by using data analysis tools like Collection HQ and Decision Center to streamline internal processes like our 2-year collection review cycle and the removal of unneeded materials. We will also use those same data analysis tools to better manage the movement of physical materials throughout the system, taking a close look at our floating collections. We will review collection placement in our libraries and align them with demonstrated customer needs. And we are on a continued search for streaming video platforms with large world language collections. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Any public comment before we get into questions and comments from the commission? Open up the floor to our commissioners. Any questions or comments? I saw this hand first, sorry.
Oh, I have multiple questions, so maybe you want to.
Do you mind if I just, if I print up the slide about low kids to just put up in the school tomorrow to really encourage the teachers to connect, because we have a lot of students that are English learners, and to connect them to sometimes their own language will help their literacy skills.
Please.
Okay.
That would be amazing. We also have promotional materials that we can share.
Great. Thank you.
When? Was it a few years?
3, 4 years.
Yeah. And the databases, electronic resources go up every year.
Every year.
But you probably have multi-year. I'm not sure how it works in public libraries. What are the state library negotiates for you for multi-year? I guess I'm asking, like, if it's a flat, then does that mean where are you making the cuts if the databases are going up? Is it on print items?
Largely,
Yeah.
it is on print items. Sometimes we can squeeze a little out of processing and taxes because we don't have to pay taxes on electronic materials. I can't remember. There's a reason why, but sales taxes don't apply to e-materials, so we can save money there. If we're buying more electronic materials, we are paying fewer dollars in taxes.
Is resource sharing like Link Plus, is that becoming more important then to SJPL or to fill some of that need?
Link Plus is a very important resource for us, and actually developing a tool for collection development to use to see what is being checked out from Link Plus, to see where those trends are in customer use so that we can improve our collections there as well.
Do you want to explain what Link Plus is?
Sure. Link Plus is a service that we offer that allows our customers to search in our catalog for an item. And if we don't have it, they search Link Plus, which is a database of and catalog of many libraries across the country. So that if, let's say, I can only think of the University of Nevada in Las Vegas has a copy of the book, then the customer can request it from Link Plus. And if that copy is available, they will receive it from University of Nevada.
So it's like a streamlined interlibrary loan, but with a shared online interface to make it work better.
Feels like it would be good to, and I know you promote it well, it's like people have a hard time wrapping their heads around Link Plus. You know, I've even told in my book club, they said, oh, that's JPL, no, it's all checked out. I said, go to Link Plus, look for the large print edition, you'll get one. And I mean, I made them a little video. I was like, I should get credit for this. But it's just like such a conundrum to try to help people understand how to use that, but it can be so helpful. I think, right?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions or comments? I want to say thank you. I said this at another meeting before, but the fact that we were talking about Libby and the fact that I have a group text of my fraternity brothers that talk about how great our resources are, just goes to show y'all are doing a phenomenal job. So thank you. And you all are, you know, for us, if we're in need of a text or something online, my family's go-to is let's check the library. And it's now I just learned about Link Plus, which I'm super stoked about. So thank you. And yeah, any other comments or questions from the commission? Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Sharon.
Yes. As a reminder, that was an informational item, so it does not require action, but we will move on to our next item, which is receiving a progress report on our in-person service delivery.
Bill, did you want to pick us up?
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking about
I
the
was
last
too.
presentation. Did you all know that you can get ebooks at the airport? Came through the airport, we have a pop-up library there as well, so we'll have to have a part 2 of our awesome collections and website e-resources presentation. So this is a new presentation that we put together, especially because of the conversations the commission has been having around the investments that have been made in library, expanding library hours. You know, we were so fortunate to expand, it's a quote from me. Thanks, guys. I said that in the office the other day, and so I was just going to capture that. But I did say that because, you know, the fact that our library system has been able to expand access after the pandemic of being open, and that our city council has been so supportive by adding the Sunday hours at 16 locations plus King, we wanted to report back to you so that you have a sense of how that's going, essentially. You know, how it started and how it's going. And our wonderful chief of staff, Ann Grabowski, and deputy director, Michelle Ornat, are here to tell you how it's going.
It's going great. Presentation over. We can all go home. So we put the quote up here. It all starts with being open because, especially as the library, overseeing the library's data team, I can tell you that we can track a million metrics and we can slice that data a million ways, and we can have a million different conversations about what's happening in a very large and complex system that offers many services. And if we do that, which we can and should, and we do that routinely here, we might miss what happens when we're just open. So today we're going to talk about visits, we're going to talk about circulation, and we're going to talk about computer usage. The things that the building has to be open for. Here's the long and the short of it. Our service hours haven't changed since we last talked to you. Library visits are outperforming last year, which is great. Sundays are well used, and circulation is also outperforming last year. Circulation outperforming last year is a very big deal But we'll talk more about that in a minute. What?
Physical circulation?
Physical circulation is outperforming last year. We have 3 different schedules. We have some branches that are open 43 hours. We have some branches that are open 48 hours and are open on Sunday. And we have some branches that are open 52 hours and are open on Sunday. No one is going to test you on these, but just reminding all of us that when we're talking about the operations of a branch, we are also adjusting, and all of the data that you'll see tonight is adjusting for visits per hour that the building is actually open. And when we're talking about Sundays, we're only comparing Sunday operations at Sunday branches. So we're not comparing branches that are open on Sunday to branches that are open 43 hours and 6 days a week. So there's some adjustment there. And also this can be kind of confusing to our residents. I'll just say that. 3 different schedules. So right now, as of the end of February, we're on track to meet and exceed visits for last fiscal year. 2.3 million visits and some change, which is pretty significant. Our branches are up almost 30,000 visits over last year. King, which is very interesting to me because of the students, is up 16,000 visits over last year. King has a very stable population here at the university. They don't have wild swings in their on-campus student population. So to have 16,000 more visits here at King tells me either more members of the public are coming in or the students are relying on the library more, or both is happening. And we don't really have a way to tell who the people that are using this building are generally more aligned with, just general members of the public, or they're also a student here. But we serve everybody, and so we'll take 16,000 more people regardless.
Just to say it out loud, that's 60,000 per month. So those are average monthly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It says it on the slide.
Yeah. The most popular day of the week across all branches is Wednesday. It's a very popular day for visits. And the most popular time of day, you know, I know you guys are so surprised that the after school hour of 3 p.m. is the most popular. Surprises no one, but it's good to see it there on the slide. If you were looking at your packet ahead of time, this would be easier to read than it is on the screen. But what you'll see is by branch, so excluding King, by branch, what the usage looks like when compared to the same point last year. And in almost every case, we've got the light blue is this fiscal year and the dark blue is last fiscal year. In almost every case, or in many cases, we are on track, either exceeding or on track, or just slightly below. And this chart also includes, unfortunately, some data errors that we're still working out with our vendor. So there's a little bit of spiking in there that we expect to see, but it's looking pretty good. So Michelle, do you want to talk about Sunday?
So this chart here is adjusted for open hours at our Sunday location. And what's interesting about this is Sundays are our highest day for circulation and per visit ratio, meaning the number of people that come in and actually leave with an item. It's our 3rd most popular day of service. And between 1 and 2 p.m. on Sundays outperform those average visits during the week, which is really interesting. Our Sunday checkouts, we love this. It's like 1.6 books for every person that comes in that checks out materials. So when we looked at these statistics and tried to see what the trends were, you know, everything kind of takes off a little slowly. It takes time for a community to adjust to the fact that there's a brand new service day. But we're definitely seeing the interest, and it's really interesting that it's the highest day for circulation and that's our per visit ratio. So this is between July and January of this fiscal year, and our materials circulated, these are physical materials, are up 2% from the same time in 2022, 2023. 60% of what we circulate that goes through our doors is children's and juvenile material. And again, as Ann noted, we have some adjusted figures in 22, 23, some data that we look at here. And then you can see where we have different areas are outperforming from last year. So the circulation is on the rise, or it is pretty neck and neck, like you see in here. So really happy to see that because we know that across the country, physical circulation has been trending down. So this is great to get to see. Yeah. And then with regard to computer sessions, the other thing that, sometimes with all of us that have access to our devices, we have our computers in our pockets, we have everything. We know that our communities still rely on the library for internet access and for that usage. So we've got nearly 175,000 computer sessions, and our busiest locations, as you can see here, are it's interesting. It's different places across the city, not maybe what we would always think about an under-resourced area, but we do have this variety of places across the city that we find our busiest locations for our computer sessions. And then we've got our total monthly computer usage here, which is a lot. It's a lot to think that we're gonna have 23,000 people come in, and use our computers.
Yep. So this, just like super high level, that's all we wanted to give you was the top line of what's happening when the doors are open, in terms of who's coming in, what they're doing in terms of circulation, and what they might be needing in terms of computers. We have a lot of internal insights that we've taken from the deeper dive on the data that we looked at. But just wanted to share that with you guys, and really be here to respond to any questions that you might have.
Thank you, thank you. Any public comment? All right, we'll open up the floor.
Just one, I think the Sunday hours information as we go into budget cycles is really important.
One thing, that we didn't know on there, I think Sundays have been open for about 6 quarters, right? The first 3 quarters were in the last fiscal year. And Sundays, I think per hour, were about the 5th or 6th most popular day. And so they've moved up to 3rd, which was, so I think that just in the last 3 quarters, so just in that amount of time, the increase is interesting. The other thing we didn't show, I don't think is every day, but what was interesting is that I was surprised how popular Wednesdays are. And every time we open on any day of the week, there's a rush of people across the system. That's similar every day of the week, which is interesting. If it's 2 p.m. or if it's not, 10 a.m., it's the same.
Yeah, as we were looking at specifically those branches that are in the 43-hour service category that open later on Mondays and Fridays, you see a huge rush, like in the gate count data, that like the doors open and you see the highest spike of people that are going to come in all day. And I know we all have anecdotal experiences of going to a branch at around opening time and people waiting outside for the stores to open.
I also think that I'm still like thinking about it, but the use of our computers and internet is also interesting and probably useful in our conversations with our council members.
Other questions or comments?
I'm just curious because we spent through what we had set aside for seniors to waive the fees, right? We spent through that limit. And I'm wondering if we've watched any data to see if that has actually curtailed any checkouts, if that has had an impact in the other way. And then, also there's like a lot about the youth and the children because those are the books that are going out the doors. But is there a way to look at the demographics a little bit on who's checking out? I guess I would check out my kids' books sometimes, so I guess that gets a little complex.
It does get pretty complex.
Yeah, it does get complex with that because we don't know who's actually holding that card holder and how that's working. Of course, we've got the data that shows like where a member is registered by home location, so what library they go to, but I think it's a little complex.
Might we be able to slice it by patron type?
Yep, we can show, let's say, over our senior population, juvenile.
So it wouldn't tell you, so you could be using your daughter's card, but it would tell you if it was a juvenile, like what's checked out on juvenile versus teen versus adult versus senior, potentially. And remember, we only added the senior card a couple of cycles
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we can certainly do a deeper dive into that. I know internally we've been talking a lot about how to focus more intentionally on the senior population. And so I think that's probably going to be a natural progression for working with.
But thank you, I agree with Wendy, this makes our task easy as we schedule one-to-one with the council members, it's like, okay, thank you.
Yes, I was gonna share an anecdotal story with my council member about how disappointed two little ones were this Sunday because their local library wasn't open. And now I have some data to back.
You know, I couldn't figure out the right graphic in time for us to post this onto the agenda, but what we saw in the usage trends for each day was that after school is really busy, right? And it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, very busy. Those are some of our highest gate count days are right there after school. You can like watch it happen in the data across the system, regardless of what schedule you're on, because everybody's open those days. Sundays look a little lower when you're comparing the entire system. But the circulation is really high. And when you adjust for only Sunday branches, we like shoot up significantly. And Saturdays also, when you adjust for hours open, because Saturdays are open everywhere and they're open the maximum number of hours, the concentration of people is lower at any given hour, but the number is also high. And so what you see is that our, and circulation is lowest in the middle of the week after school. So people are coming in, students are coming in for a safe place after school. They're not necessarily checking out a ton of materials, but they're going to programs. And then on the weekends, we're seeing families come in and check out materials and go to programs. And on Mondays and Fridays, we're seeing pretty high circulation and also a high demand for those hours. They're like running in the doors when they open. And so 3 very different use cases, but everybody's demanding library services. And any one of those constituencies would be happy to see expansion of services and upset to see anything curtailed.
Any other comments or questions, Joe? All right, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. Again, team, this is an information item. So we'll keep it flowing and we will go on to our council liaison announcement. Thank you for being here.
It's good to be here. Sorry, I missed the last meeting. I think we had a big community, our neighborhood associations came together. Short staff had to attend that, and I was gonna try to attend virtually, but I think I just missed that opportunity entirely. But in the meantime, we had that community meeting last month. There was good feedback. We learned a lot about Beautify SJ, and just took feedback from the community. So that was a big event for us. We had a pizza and policy later that week, which had good turnout. It was VTA's oriented. We had the Biblioteca Latino Americano Library community event. The format of it was very nice. We got a lot of good feedback from community members, and our staff honestly want to replicate that format for how it was presented, and just very engaging overall. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being there.
No, yeah, it was good to see it, because it's good. Yeah, it's good to see it. And the council member is very excited for that renovation, if I'm correct. And we had Nirvana Soul, the grand soft opening this Monday, I believe. It was nice, great to have it here at King Library, and then the grand opening next week. So if you guys want some good coffee, I had the lavender honey coffee. It was amazing, really good. And then we had a ribbon cutting of a new park this afternoon, which was nice. In addition, for some upcoming events in the community, in downtown and across San Jose, there's going to be a Great America Litter Pickup. I believe it's been in cycle for the last few years. It paused briefly for COVID, but it's on the 20th. A lot of all the council districts should have 5 sites each at least, where you could go pick up trash at a local park and just beautify it pretty much. It's a whole city scale event, something to look out for. The day after Viva Calle, going through downtown and into District 7, something to look out for. I have more information, maybe I can share that at a later time or later tonight. And then also a constituent reached out to our office earlier in the week, or earlier in the month, saying how they were blind and they're having a lot of trouble with their library card being expired, but the library staff went the extra effort and got it renewed almost instantly, and they're very grateful for the library staff, and they wanted us to mention. So thank you guys. Thank you everyone. Mentioning that constituent, and that's it. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Any questions or
Yeah.
comments for our council leader?
I think we're all so happy that we have a council representative that's actually here.
Try to be here as often
It's good
as
to hear the information.
Any other questions or comments? All right, now we'll go on to the chair's announcements. I'll keep it short. I'll start off just by saying thank you to everyone in this room. It is 8:26 on a Wednesday, and you all are here serving our city, our libraries, our education in the city. So thank you. There's a lot of different things we can be doing. I just want to personally thank you all for everything that you're doing here. And then I have an ask from folks. Of course I have an ask. We've talked a lot about reaching out to our council members because it's budget season. We are lucky we have a great council liaison, council member that I know supports our libraries. But I did see in our budget message, if folks did not see that it came from the mayors, that libraries were not directly named in the budget message. And as a chair, obviously I want to make sure that our libraries are advocated for. So if we can, please, if you have time and capacity, today we met the Public Library Foundation and our advocacy committee to talk about ways that we can speak to our council members about the importance of libraries. We had a lot of presentations today that emphasize that our libraries aren't just about books. It's more than that. It's community spaces. It's, as a father, it's a place where we go on the weekends and build community and hang out. And the data has been clear that these investments have been productive for our communities. It's abundantly clear that we need to actually be investing more into our libraries. So if we can, please reach out to your council members, set up some time. I'm happy to talk to you. We have talking points. Basically, just make sure that we are keeping our resources and continuing to invest in our libraries, and to remind them that April is National Library Appreciation Month. So good cohesion, tell them, let's recognize our libraries by making sure we're funding them the way we should. That's all I have. Any questions or comments for me?
I just want to say I'm gonna reach out to Pam Foley for Ken. I just did that. Oh, forget it. Check. But go ahead. Yep, it's great.
Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to our library director then.
And thank you, Chair. So I just have a couple of exciting opportunities for engagement, both in the library, but also in the city as a whole. First, we want to welcome all members of the community to a special joint public meeting of the Library and Education Commission and the Youth Commission of the City of San Jose, whose chair was here earlier, next Thursday, March 28th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Hillview Branch Library. This will be a unique opportunity to encourage the public to share their feedback and discuss priorities and outcomes and resources as the city prepares to finalize the Children and Youth Services Master Plan, which we've discussed many times here at Commission, before the plan is reviewed by City Council on April 9th of this year. Interpretation in Spanish and Vietnamese will be available. You can, of course, find more information on our website at sjpl.org, and please encourage your communities to attend. I know our youth commissioners are encouraging youth to attend. We really want it to be a robust public hearing. Next, we have the Digital Empowerment Survey. And because the City of San Jose has had a longstanding commitment to closing the digital divide through our SJ Access program, which you all know about, which is a citywide initiative, but it's led by the library, the community's needs are currently being assessed, and the library needs your help in gathering your insights and opinions. So by taking the Digital Empowerment Survey, you will help the city plan our digital access and empowerment efforts for the next 5 years. The survey is available in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese, and it will close on Friday, March 29th. In addition, the library has scheduled 2 community conversation events to connect members of the public in person. The first was held earlier today at the Hillview branch, and the second will be at Edenvale branch on Monday, March 25th, from 5 to 6:30 p.m. So for more information and to take the survey, of course, it's sjpl.org/SJA survey. And then finally, we have a really cool program coming up this summer, and there's a pre-registration that's available. That's now open. It's called the Summer 2024 We Thrive High School Entrepreneur Camp. So teens are invited to become entrepreneurs this summer at the library through hands-on lessons provided by We Thrive, which is a nonprofit organization that helps youth identify solutions in their community, hone their skills to build a business, and launch real micro enterprises. Participants are going to learn how to create a business model, plan to solve a community problem, or sell their creative works, purchase supplies, and then create a marketing plan. The teens will also showcase their products or service at a pop-up market where they can take home profit earnings, actually. So each business will be given up to a certain amount of money in seed funding provided by We Thrive and our wonderful San Jose Public Library Foundation. The program starts on Tuesday, June 11th, and it'll be held in our Teen HQ at the King Library. So for more information about the camp and the pre-registration form is found on our website, which is not linked, but I assume it's on sjpl.org. And we can send out the website link. And the last thing I wanted to add is we were able to find the volunteer total data from 2018-19, which was the last full year prior to the pandemic. And that year, the number of volunteer hours was 96,000.
Wow.
So we are about a third of the way back to what we used to have. And the number of volunteers was about 3,100. So about a third, a little bit more than a third of the number of people. But it's definitely increased year on year. And that concludes my announcements. I welcome any questions.
Questions or comments for our director? All right. We will now move on to announcements and meetings attended by commissioners as commissioners. Floor is open. Been busy times, y'all. We'll keep going then to San Jose Public Library Foundation Board.
So since Commissioner Ramos Allen isn't here today, I will just briefly speak on her behalf. For those of you who don't know me, Dawn Coughlin, the CEO of the Library Foundation. Thank you so much for talking about the advocacy, the joint committee that we have, bringing together the Commission, the Library Foundation, and the Friends as all three entities speaking to council members is incredibly powerful. And so if we can look to you to schedule those one-on-one meetings, that would be terrific. And then we are all there as committee members to come and actually make the case and bring that incredible data that we talked about today, but there's so much more as well to share to you. So looking for advocacy, ideally before May 1st, because we know they're making decisions quickly and we want to get out ahead of all of that. The second big thing to really talk about or remind you of is April 3rd is Library Giving Day. And this is a national thing. Libraries across the US and into Canada. And Library Giving Day isn't just about monetary donations, although we welcome that a lot, but also we encourage people to give back through volunteering, and you had a great presentation about that. Obviously, we are part of trying to get more people involved. We know there's a very strong correlation between people who choose to give their time as volunteers, such as yourselves, and those who become financial donors and supporters of the organization as well. So there are multiple ways in which you can give to support your library, including also them being an ambassador, and if you're on social media or talking to any of your friends and networks, again, just amplifying all of the great work that happens here. And that is another way in addition to your service as commissioners. So Library Giving Day, April 3rd. And I believe that is our next board meeting is April 18. So we'll be meeting as a commission before then. And I believe it's next, Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think it's the next commission meeting that Angelica and I will be doing a presentation
Me.
in May.
I believe it's May 7th.
Okay, please let me know, because I have it as April, so I don't want to show up and be like, yeah, no, you're not on this. So, but soon we will be coming to talk about that. Of course, any questions you have about the Library Foundation, please come and talk to me. Thanks.
Questions or comments? Thank you, Don. We'll move on to our next item, information and upcoming opportunities for commission participation. Check out our SJPL program calendar, sjpl.org. We'll move on to our next item, items for future commission meeting agendas. Floor is open for commissioners, any future meeting agenda. All right. All right, folks, that does conclude our meeting. Our next meeting will take place April 17th, 2024 at the Rose Garden Library branch. And with that, we can adjourn this meeting at 8:36.